Welcome in, everybody, to the UCR Football Show here live from the rooftop of Fire and Vine. Our show is always presented by Fire and Vine. My name's Jacob Vinson. That's Noah McKay. It is Week 10 of the high school football season. All kinds of stuff to talk about. We're going to break down all of Week 9's action. Not a whole lot of games last week, but we have a lot of games coming up this week and a lot of pretty good matchups this week as well. If you're tuning in, make sure you give us a share, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook, watching on YouTube. Make sure you like the stream and subscribe to the channel as well. Before we get into it, we, of course, want to thank all of our all-inclusive sponsors. We're right here at Fire and Vine. It's jam-packed.
It's awesome.
It is absolutely jam-packed here on a Thursday night. Come join us on the rooftop. Of course, the Real Estate Collective, T-Up and Baxter, Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate, Club Wyndham, Watson Chevy. You're watching it right here on the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network. The Quality Family, Domino's, Nelson Trophy and Screen Printing, Aminette's Eagle Auction and Realty, the Crouch Team with Highlands Elite Real Estate, Hall Sports and Outdoors, and the Hall Family Pharmacy, and Swallows Insurance. We appreciate all of our all-inclusive sponsors for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. You want to talk some football?
Anything happen this weekend? I mean, hello.
The Hoosiers?
Who cares? Hello.
Most dominant win by
it was a good win.
Stats.
It's a good win.
Now
Not as good as Tennessee's win, but it was a good win. Vols are back. I'm feeling myself. You can't. I mean, we got the off week too, so I don't have to worry about Kentucky.
Yeah, how about that?
Until next week.
The 2 bye weeks.
Fantastic.
It's weird.
I like it this week.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, especially after the last 3 games that they had.
And we're doing the show on Thursday. So it's jam-packed on the rooftop. Vibes are high, Jacob. I'm feeling good. You're feeling good. We got a Friday night, tomorrow night, couple of good games.
Really good
games. We've had a lot of time to get into it. We're going to know a little bit more than maybe we would doing this show on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So we need you to share the stream. People are going to be like, they're talking on Thursday too? Yeah, we're talking all the time. And we're going to have some fun tonight. But I'm feeling great. So I'm going to rep the checker for the next week or so and just keep this thing rolling.
The new polo in the repertoire for Noah McKay. Tennessee got a big win. The Indiana Hoosiers hosting College Game Day coming up this weekend as they take on the Washington Huskies.
Nobody cares. Literally nobody cares.
Enough people care. The game days.
I will say this. I like their coach. I like his mentality.
He's going to be in the SEC
Here's
next
the thing.
year.
Here's the thing about Here's the thing about Indiana though. Okay. If a 11-1 Indiana with a loss to Ohio State gets in over a 10-2 SEC team, I'm committing a war crime with that schedule that team has played. But I digress. Let's get to high school. Let's go.
All right. Of course, we always start where Noah was right, where he was wrong. Last week, it was pretty easy. There were only 5 games. You didn't miss anything.
This is my favorite version of this segment ever. Nailed it. 100 for 100. I mean, perfection. And now I'm 3 games clear because Justin very foolishly decided to pick against Derwin Wright's York Dragons. Not me. I wouldn't do it this week. That's not happening. Nailed that one.
Hey, Goose and I got it.
They got the win. You're only
We're
one game
back
behind
at Justin.
Now you're 4 games behind me, so know your place.
You know.
But regardless.
We're making a comeback.
You are.
We're going to go clip Justin a few weeks ago on the End Zone show. I think it was when he was on his boat saying that he wasn't worried about us.
He's a little more. He should be a little more worried. I'm just going to keep cruising. So I try to take accountability for where I was wrong. There's just no place for me to go this week. I mean, I was right on everything, and that's where I was right. So if you don't like it, maybe this week could be different. This week absolutely may be different. A lot tougher of a week to pick. But last week I appreciate the Dragons especially for helping me out and giving me one more game.
We'll talk about that and so much more coming up. Some of the comments already coming in. Casey, he's out there cheering on the Hoosiers. Sean asking about Alcoa moving up to 4A.
Let's we can do that before we get into the rest of the stuff.
Finally.
It's about time. They should be in 6A. So they did that. I will say this. Alcoa, without question, is going to be a dominant powerhouse still in 4A. It isn't going to be cake like it. They're not winning 9 straight state championships in 4A. Now, you think about this year. Having to get through a Greenville again, they beat Greenville. Having to get through an Anderson County, who's probably going to be in their region with them. Having to get through Upperman. And I'll tell you, if it was this year and they had to come to Upperman, I'm taking Upperman. Alcoa's very good. But let's be honest. Gary Rankin ain't coming through with Alcoa. So they're still a dominant program. They're going to win multiple state championships in 4A. But good on them because it was ridiculous that they were staying in 3A every year. It's about dang time that Alcoa jumps into 4A with some actual real big-time football teams.
Was that the classification pushing them up, or was that their decision?
That was their decision,
okay.
And they filed it like at the last minute. Because then the
I thought so.
The last time it kind of hinted around that they were going to go, a lot of teams moved up to try or moved down to try and avoid them. There was some shenanigans there, so Alcoa waited to the last possible second, dropped the bomb. They're moving to 4A. There's lots of reasons for it. I do think it's good. Them beating up on 3A does nothing. It does absolutely nothing.
No.
And so get some more competition. And I think that's better for all people involved. Now, it may not be as good if you're in one of these locker rooms in Region 4-4A because you just got another big bad, really.
That is big bad Alcoa.
Yeah, big bad Alcoa out there. So you got some problems there now, but I think it's good for everybody else.
Once again, this is the UCR Football Show. Give us a share if you're watching on Facebook. Make sure you like the stream and comment along with us. If you're watching on YouTube, like the stream and subscribe to the channel as well. It's week 10 of the high school football season. Of course, we're going to start it with the UC Top 5. And a little bit of a conversation, but
disagreement.
I think are we holding? I guess we never really finalized if we're holding.
I got outvoted, and I'm not gonna put my foot down this week. Every once in a while, I think maybe once ever, I've really said no. We're doing this.
Cookville Upperman boys basketball.
Yeah, we went back and forth a lot, but I'm not putting my foot down here. There are a clear 6.
Yeah.
Right now, and the top 5 I don't think changes off of last week.
So we'll just start at the number 1 spot. Like you said, it's not going to change from last week. Upperman still holds at number 1. They're undefeated at 8-0. They beat White House 42-6, and we'll break down some of these. And Cookville at the number 2 spot. And those top 2 teams kind of have separated themselves, and Upperman even more so than the rest of the pack.
One ain't changing.
Cookville 7-1, beating Lincoln County, a good win 31-14. White County on a bye stays at 3. Macon County also on a bye, staying at 4. Clay County was going to stay here at this number 5 spot. They beat RBS 49-0, and York Institute at honorable mention. Both of them with the same record, both of them undefeated in region play. York got a big win against FCS and Friendship Christian School 26-23. Not Fellowship Christian School, Friendship Christian School. We had to have that conversation during the game on Friday. But I digress. But the conversation was, do we jump York over Clay County, because York's last 2 wins are really, really good wins, out of region, out of classification, but that head-to-head, at least for me and Goose, still holds a lot of weight, especially since Clay County has the same record and their 2 losses aren't bad losses.
And I got to give Goose in particular a ton of credit, because he is the head-to-head is king guy. I mean, he is in every sport, head-to-head is king, and I think it certainly plays a huge factor. Listen, these are 2 very good football teams. These are 2 teams that I can see in Chattanooga at the end of the season in their respective classifications. The irony of it is York is playing such great football right now. They have back-to-back really nice wins at 4A Stone Memorial, at home against Division II Friendship Christian, and Clay County's best win is York. So that's where it becomes a very, and if they played again today, I think it would be a barn burner of a football game. And I think both teams are a lot better now than they were in that week 1 matchup. They play a little bit differently, obviously, with York going to kind of barrel in there and run the football over and over again. Nate Adams slinging it around the yard for Clay County. It's very close. This is splitting hairs time between those 2. And I got no problem with Clay County staying at 5. They're a well-deserved team to be on this UC Top 5. I've been super impressed with York's quality of victories, but Clay's doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Against RBS, they should go and win in lopsided fashion. They win 49-0, hence no change on the top 5.
I'm sure Coach Lamb would want us to maybe take them off the top 5 going into next week, just to throw some bulletin board material out there. Of course, he would let us know about it as well.
Jessica, Sparta is very firmly entrenched in 4A. They're not the last school in the 4A, and actually they're a lot closer to.
They're the last school in 4A, meaning they're
I think there may be
jumping
one in between now. The last time around there was one. They were the one right on the edge. If Sparta went anywhere, they have to go up to 5A. They would not get bumped down the other way. So, no, Sparta will never be a 3A school in the remainder of time.
Unless they just change it to 4 or 5 classifications.
Yeah, it will never change for the history of the world.
So, once again, our UC Top 5, York remains at honorable mention, and the top 5 stays the same. Clay County at 5, Macon County at 4, White County at 3, Cookville at 2, and the Upperman Bees at number 1. The first game I want to talk about is that York Institute game. They beat Friendship Christian School 26-23. They were trailing all game long, finally got the lead in the 4th quarter, and they did not relinquish it again.
If you saw me at the Cookville game fist bumping wildly during the fourth quarter when nothing was happening, it was because the score report came in from this game, purely because I'm right and Justin was wrong. And that's what I was looking for. This is a really good win. And in some ways, this may even be a better win than the Stone win was for this York team because of the way they had to win it. Being down 13 points a couple of times, down multiple possessions, a couple of times where you went, ooh, is this about to turn lopsided? And their ability to win in different ways is the hallmark sign of a really solid football team. It's a tough schedule that they're playing. It was a very different game script than a week ago in Crossville in the Stone Memorial game. I don't think you can say enough about what Derwin Wright has done with this team, and I think at the heart of it, they've got back to doing what York Institute football is. They're a physical, powerful football team that plays not the most confusing defense in the world, but they're really sound at it. They got enough stops in the game, and they got a couple of explosive plays. This is a great win for York, who now is about to steamroll into at least the third round of the playoffs without much resistance from here on out.
They won it in kind of a different way. Cole Brannon, he has 10 carries, 77 yards. He was their leading rusher. He's been really good the last couple of games. Couple of touchdowns. He also caught 2 passes for 92 yards and a touchdown. One of those went for 89 yards and a touchdown. But the 2 big plays, an 89-yard pass play for a touchdown, that one to Brannon, and a 66-yard pass play touchdown. I believe it was to Blake Voiles. Tipton passing the ball 6 for 9 for 200 yards and 2 scores. And one thing that really hampered the Dragons early this season were the turnovers. They did not turn it over once in this game. They took care of the football, and obviously defensively they made a stand late in that game with about 4 minutes to play.
Absolutely. We'll remind you, let us know who you are, where you're watching from, what team you're a fan of, what your predictions are as we get into these games. We're about to start predicting games, a few really interesting ones. The first one we're going to predict is not that way. Nathaniel Tipton, you mentioned those stats, 6 of 9, 200 yards. Those are the explosive plays. Yep. And we saw a little bit of that last week, really on one drive against Stone, where they're just power run, and all of a sudden, a couple of quick passes, and then you take a shot. And he is more than capable enough to do that, and that adds a whole new dimension to York's offense. They're not going to roll in and go 5 out wide and just start slinging it around the yard. But, number one, you have to respect their passing game, which frees up some one blocker or one defender out of the box, right? One per play has to defend these wide receivers on the edge. You have to leave maybe 2 safeties on the field every once in a while, which helps your running game. And then if you don't respect it, they're good enough in that department to beat you downfield. It completely changes where this team can get to, because let's say they run into a team in the third round of the playoffs that has a pretty effective job limiting the single wing offense. They're not going to be unable to throw the football around if they have to. And they just won a game coming from behind 2 scores. So if they get behind, you're not going to panic in that locker room. I love everything about how this season has gone so far for York.
They could have actually won this game by a little bit more as well. They got the football back with about a minute and 40 seconds or so to play in the game. They ended up just kneeling it out. They had it on the Friendship Christian 14-yard line. Yeah. So they very easily could have scored again, but they just smartly took care of the football and took a couple of knees.
We were right over there a month and a half ago, and if you would have told me this team was 6-2,
yeah,
I said, okay, let's go buy some beachfront property in Iowa. I mean, there's no way. I've owned it. I've already accepted I was wrong. I said, hey, York Institute, we got a problem. And they had a problem at the time. They don't have a problem anymore. Nope. And you shouldn't underestimate Derwin Wright. We're not going to the rest of the way. You know, and I said they're going to steamroll. Polk County could present some resistance. They're going to beat them. Yeah. But they could present some resistance here in next week.
It's a long road trip, too.
But, man, and you watch that other half of the bracket. Right, Bledsoe County, who they've already beat, is probably the best team on York's side of the bracket until that semifinal matchup. I don't think you want to see East Rob, given all of what happened at the end of that game, and you know you're going to get East Robertson's best crack. But if it's Westmoreland, I'm telling you, York's going to go to the state championship game. I mean, the way they're playing, I really think that that's on the board for this York team, which entering the year, if you would have told me this was the version of York that goes to state and not the last 2 years, you would have been crazy, but not anymore.
They've won the region title in the last couple of seasons, trying to do it for a 3rd year in a row. They got to win this week and then next week at Polk County as well. That'll be for the region title. Of course, it starts with a win this week. They're hosting Wartburg. York Institute 6-0, 3-0 in Region 2 2A. Hosting Wartburg, who is 2-6 and 0-3 in region play. This game will be on UCR 5, presented by Beatty Lumber and Birdie's Lounge with Casey and Jack Bolden. Dragons have won 6 games in a row. Obviously, their 2 biggest wins of the game in the last biggest wins of the season in the last couple of games against York and Friendship Christian School, with one of those coming on the road. Back into region play for the first time since they beat Oneida back on the 4th of October, and they won that game 28-0. A win guarantees themselves a top 2 seed no matter what happens in that final week of the regular season, but it sets them up to be able to win the region title at Polk County next week as well.
York rolls.
Yeah.
York rolls. They're clearly the better team. We can hype it up all sorts of different ways. This is not the kind of team now that's going to be caught asleep at the wheel. Coach Wright's not going to allow them to be that way. They now have the advantage of the early bye as long as they can stay healthy, because you don't have a week in between games where you can fall out of your rhythm. They had their fall break last week, but they had a game, so they had to stay in the building. You don't get removed from everything. York's going to roll on Friday night. I mean, watch the game. They're going to do a great job. Casey and Jack are going to be awesome. Appreciate all the sponsors, but York's going to roll.
Senior night as well.
Yeah, you want to watch an impressive performance, tune into UCR 5 on Friday night, or tomorrow night, because they're going to win by a bunch.
York won this game last year 40-7. Put on here, going to be a good tune-up game for them to get ready for Polk County, because that's going to be a long road trip down to the southern part of Tennessee for the region title with it on the line. Score, what are you going with?
72 to no, I'm kidding.
Hey, they did it last year.
I know. With the way that they're structured, I don't think they're going to put up 70 points. Unlike, with Miles Lefew doing what he did last year. I will take York to win this game walking away, giving them 49-6.
Yeah, I went 33-0. A couple of missed extra points.
There you go.
They'll probably go for 2. Livingston Academy, 3-5, 0-4 in region play, hosting Cumberland County, who is 2-6 and 0-5 in region play. This game will be on UCR 4, presented by the Overton County Farm Bureau with Rafferty Cleary and JoJo Matheny. Both of these teams looking for their first region win of the year. Of course, for Cumberland County, it's their last region game. Livingston still has White County coming up next week at the end of the year, so this is the last chance for Cumberland County. Last season, the Wildcats won this game 19-7, but Cumberland County is coming off of maybe one of their strongest performances of the year. They lost to DeKalb County a couple of weeks ago before the bye, 28-21, but they had a chance. It was about on the 16-yard line on 4th down, could not convert, and ended up losing the game by 7 points. But one of those games that kind of caught our eyes and, hey,
absolutely,
this Cumberland County team
absolutely
starting to turn a corner.
Well, and the thing about, listen, first of all, this is the game. Right? This is the game for your offseason momentum. This is the game to stay bought in. I mean, this is a huge game for both teams, because this region is friggin' ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the best team in the state. You've got 2 more who certainly should be top 10 teams in the state, and nobody else is slouches. I mean, this region is legit, and you get a game that's winnable on the board. The thing for Cumberland County, and maybe we talk about the Jets for both teams. I love both these head coaches. They both are very good coaches. The records have nothing to do with their acumen or anything else, or their staffs at all, or the players. They're playing their hearts out every Friday night. Everybody who has watched Cumberland County in person, you were one, coaches that I've talked to have all said, hey, they're better than they were, and they're bigger than they were.
I got some
that bodes
size
well
on that offensive line.
They should be playing with confidence after their performance against DeKalb County. I'm very curious how Livingston plays in this game, because Livingston has been ravaged with injuries. Ravaged. Obviously, Hallie's our sideline reporter. Her brother, hurt. Adrian Jenkins, hurt. Rocco Carwile, hurt. I mean, I'm not trying to leave anybody out. There's a long list. I mean, for a team that was not particularly deep entering this season, you've had 5-6 starters now out. Brutal. But if you're Matt and Hauser, you're the caged animal right now. This is your best crack to go out here and get a big win, get to 4-5 on the season, and go take your crack at Sparta. I think you're going to see both teams at their absolute highest potential at this point. Livingston's potential is hurt by those injuries, but I think you're going to see a very motivated pair of football teams tomorrow night there in Hogeye Country.
Obviously, like you said, a big opportunity for both of these teams to get a win going into the offseason. Obviously, there's still another week left next week for both of these sides. I think Cumberland County has Sequoia, which might be a winnable game for them.
It's absolutely a winnable game.
Yeah.
No question.
And Livingston will have White County. And for White County, depending on what happens this week, they may need to win that game next week to keep the 2 seed. Who are you going with?
Yeah, man, this is a toss-up game for me. I just think Cumberland County is a healthier football team right now. I think we've seen them play a little bit better here entering this football game. I think both teams come ready to play, but right now I'll take the Jets to win the game. In a close one, I'll take Cumberland County to win it 21-14.
I'm going to go 20-7 in a close one. Similar score to last year, but like you said, just the injuries maybe a little bit too much for Livingston to overcome.
The start's going to be really important.
Yeah.
Whichever team can kind of get that early momentum and build into it, I think that's critically important.
All right, let's talk about the game that you were at last week. Cookeville beating Lincoln County 31-14, and kind of the same script that they have followed almost all season long in a lot of their games. They only led 10-7 at halftime, and that was a field goal. I think you said it hit the crossbar or it looked kind of weird. They barely got it over. They rushed for less than 100 yards, but they still won by 3 possessions.
Yeah, Cookeville, it's a good win for them. And, okay, Lincoln County. You've got, I'm serious. We talked about voting for this kid for Mr. Football.
He did say it this week.
I'm not kidding. He's got 18 touchdowns now. He's got 1,400 yards. He's rushed for over 100 yards in every game, the tailback for Lincoln County. And they stopped giving him the football in the second half.
We've seen that a couple of times against the Cavaliers. Juice Edwards wasn't getting it for Lebanon.
What is going on?
Yeah.
He's on the field every play. It'd be one thing if he's hurt. He's on the field running routes. He's going to put him in the slot. I'm like, he was stiff-arming dudes off the canvas. Just get off me. And they stopped giving it to him. That being said, Cookeville, a very nice performance, and a game where they didn't have their trump card, which is a dominant run game. It was not an overly dominant run game.
I think it was about 3 yards a carry.
Yeah, they went down early again. That's going to be an issue, a thing they can't do this Friday, which we will talk about here coming up. But Blake Owen, for the games that I have watched, and certainly the games that I have commentated, the best night of Blake Owen throwing the football. And obviously it gets inflated a little bit by a terrific strike to Caden Cisco. First play of the third quarter, a complete backbreaker right in the breadbasket.
They've done it all season long,
100%. But his accuracy consistently throughout that game, going to be critical for them. They have to have that in their arsenal in this 6A classification. You can get away with it in 1A and 2A. You got to have a competent passing game to give a crack to the Riverdales and Oaklands of the world. You have to. And they showed that. And they showed that on Friday night. That was very important to see. They need it this Friday night. And all the credit in the world to Blake Owen, who's clearly given a lot of time into throwing the football. If he can look like that and the running game gets back to where we expect it to be, Lincoln County's a big old football team. That's as big of a football team up front as I've seen all year long, and I've seen some big ones. When you look big next to Cookeville's line, my goodness. If they can get back to that 5-6 yards a carry clip and continue to throw the ball with this consistency, Cookeville becomes a very scary football team.
Well, let's talk about the game that they have coming up this week. It is their biggest game of the season. Cookeville at 7-1. They are 3-1 in Region 4 6A play, traveling to Green Hill, who is undefeated, 4-0 in Region play. This game will be on UCR 3, presented by the CHS Chain Gang and 931 Sports Cards and Collectibles with myself and Coach Shanks. It'll also be on 107.7 if you want to listen to it on the radio. Cavaliers trying to secure a top 2 seed with a win. Trying to get a 3-way tie. They would need some help from Green Hill next week, but you got to focus on getting the win this week, of course, and trying to get either a 1 or a 2 seed going into the playoffs. Last year, Cookeville won this game, and it was the game that they needed to win to get that 2 seed a year ago. They won it 28-20. Big thing for Green Hill. Their best target, tight end Aaron Mattingly, is a 3-star tight end. He's getting actually offers from bunch of teams at the Division I level, including Duke, Eastern Kentucky, and a couple of other teams out there. He has been injured since week 2. I am not sure if he is going to try to come back. I have not heard anything, so I don't know if he's even going to play in this game. However, this is a very good Green Hill team that has a very good quarterback in Cannon Burrows. And they also have Nick Owens Jr., who he'll line up in the slot. He'll line up at running back. He'll go out to wideout. He is a very, very good athlete. Those two in general are going to make it really tough on the defense, let alone this Green Hill defense. They're allowing 6 points per game. Now, we got to say this, too.
Talk about it.
Green Hill has not played a team with a winning record this season. The best team that they have played is a 4-4. I think it was West Central. I've never even heard of this school. I think they're over by Nashville.
The schedule has been abysmal for Green Hill.
15-40 are opponents' records.
Abysmal. Yeah. Now, that being said,
but they're winning.
They're doing exactly what they should do against teams they should beat.
Correct.
The thing with Green Hill is we bring up the schedule to not discredit them at all. They are completely and entirely untested. Right, we do not know what this Green Hill team looks like under significant pressure. Right, in a real 4-quarter fight.
They were tied with Lebanon, right? A little bit of adversity,
which is not a great thing because Cookeville went in there and smashed Lebanon. and Lebanon nearly beat Mount Juliet last week. So Lebanon, Chuck Gentry has that team playing much better football, no question. And those are rivalry games, and that has different juice to it, no doubt about it. We have not seen Green Hill against a good team be tested yet.
No.
Now, they have an opportunity on tomorrow night to pass it with flying colors, right? To go out there and look like the way they have all season, and then everyone goes, oh, Green Hill is a real contender in this classification. Or Cookeville has an opportunity to go in there, give them their first loss, essentially secure a home playoff game. They're going to beat Wilson Central next week.
If they win, I was going to say, if they win, they will have a top 2 seed.
If Cookeville wins and then Green Hill were to turn around and beat Mount Juliet, I think Cookeville wins the region.
It's not a think, it is.
Because
they
of the
have
schedule.
They have their opponents would have the best overall record.
Correct. So Cookeville has an opportunity. Obviously, they got to get a home playoff game.
Yes.
You cannot go on the road to Riverdale in the first week of the playoffs. You don't go there and win. It doesn't happen. You certainly don't go to Oakland and win, which thankfully is off the board. But you don't go to Murfreesboro and win playoff games very often. Not at Riverdale and Oakland. I'm from there originally. This doesn't happen ever. But they have an opportunity to win the region. And if you win the region, you don't have to go to Oakland till round 3. This game is massive for the Cookeville Cavaliers. This game is the biggest game in the Taylor Hennigan era for the Cookeville Cavaliers. You can say the second-round playoff game last year, totally fine. Obviously, huge stakes in that game.
By the way, if they're the 1 seed, they host all the way through.
Exactly right. This team's ceiling is higher than last team's ceiling was. This is a better Cookeville team than last year's Cookeville team was. They're a year older, more experienced. They've been there, done that. This is where Cookeville has to be at their absolute best. They got to throw the football the way they did last week, Jacob, and they have to run the football the way they did the first 6 games of the season. And if they do that, they've got every opportunity in the world to go on the road and beat this Green Hill team. The problem is Green Hill is designed to capitalize on the weaknesses of this Cookeville Cavalier defense. Cookeville's secondary has to have their best game of the season on Friday because guys from Lincoln County were running free last week. They were getting open, and the quarterback just couldn't hit them. If guys run free tomorrow night for Green Hill, Burroughs is going to put it on them, and they will score. They cannot allow what happened against Gallatin, Mount Juliet, and last week against Lincoln County. Cookeville can't get down early. They can't get down multiple scores early in this football game.
That's the big thing.
7-0, cool.
Yeah.
14-0, 21-0. This is a Green Hill team designed to bury teams. They got to turn this into a 4-quarter fight. And I don't say that to mean, Cookeville's a 28-point underdog. They're not.
No.
I think this is a very good matchup. But Cookeville has to avoid some of the pitfalls that they've even been able to navigate through and escape with wins so far this season.
Cannon Burroughs, he's thrown for just under 1,000 yards, but he can sling it. But he's really added his rushing attack this year. He is averaging 10 yards a carry. He is their leading rusher. I think he's right around 700 yards rushing so far this season. So he is the guy. He's toting the rock. He's throwing the rock. And if it's not him, it's Nick Owens Jr. I mean, those two, they've been really, really good. Nick Owens Jr., I think he's accounted for 21 touchdowns. I'd have
that's
to pull
pretty
it
good.
Up.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I just had it pulled up because I was trying to find their defensive stats.
They have 8. They played 8 games.
Their defensive stats, they've got, I think it's 68 tackles for loss, 13 sacks. And I'm trying to find it. My board, of course, it's in a very weird format as I pull it up
on your phone.
Here.
That's what it does. Yeah.
But their defense, and again, a lot of it is probably the teams that they play, but their defense is legit. And I mentioned Cannon Burroughs. He's been really, really good so far this season. And, of course, my stats just don't want to be in a good format. But
ultimately, Green Hill's got a ton of weapons.
Yes.
They do. And Cookeville has to limit those weapons.
Yes.
They just do, right? Cookeville has to have a big game out of Caden Cisco. They have to have a good game out of Thomas Johnson on the back end of the secondary. Wes Hudson has to get home. When Blake Owen is sitting on blitzes, he has to get home. They have to disrupt the passer. They got to limit the big plays, keep it in front of them. And offensively, Cookeville has to run the football effectively. That's their trump card. Green Hill's trump card are these weapons in their passing attack. Cookeville's trump card is, hey, you're going to touch the ball twice this half. And we're going to grind it down your throat and just 15-play drive, 80 yards, capped off with a 1-yard quarterback sneak touchdown by Blake Owen, right? That is Cookeville's trump card. They got to do that regularly and often. You limit the possessions for an explosive offense, and they've got to figure out a way to sustain drives. This will be the best offense Green Hill has faced, but it's a Green Hill defense that has been sensational so far this season.
Yeah, only giving up 6 points per game. And Sheila, we appreciate the stars. Another way you can support us here at UCR, and we surely do appreciate it.
Now, I do want to say, because Sheila reminded me, it's my mom's name. Happy birthday to my mom.
There you go.
Turned 25 tonight.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Mom.
But I got to emphasize, too, Cookeville, you said it. Cookeville cannot get off to a slow start. And they've done that a lot this season. They did it against Lincoln County. And granted, Lincoln County up 10-7. Gallatin tied 14-14. And then they kind of figured it out in the second half. But they have to get off to a good start in the first half.
And I talked to Taylor Hennigan about that, and he was like, this is a team, and it's a good quality. They don't blink. They believe in what they're doing. They believe that they have the game plan to win, and that's good. Their ability to withstand in the adversity is good. It's great. But you don't want to take on a lot of adversity when you're facing an undefeated 6A football team. You got to make it easier on yourself, indeed. Huge game.
Who you going with?
Free bulletin board material. Cookeville's got to prove it to me. Cookeville has got to prove to me that they can limit an explosive passing attack. That is the one thing we haven't seen them do consistently this year is limit an explosive passing attack. Gallatin threw for a bunch of yards on him. Mount Juliet ran it more than we expected them to, but they've had some success. Last week, Lincoln County had some free runners in the secondary. If Cookeville can do that, they win. I need to see it. As of now, I'll take Green Hill to win the football game. I think it's a great one. I'll take Green Hill 28-24.
I'm going 24-21 Cookeville by a field goal.
You are the beloved for Cavalier Nation tonight.
There we go. White County, who knows? They might change in the picks. They won't. I picked them.
Yeah, on Tuesday they're a lot more likely to change when we make the pick on Tuesday than we make them on Thursday night. I'll tell you.
By the way, we won't have UC Game Day morning tomorrow because you can just
rewatch this.
Yeah, it's going to be the same thing.
Literally.
White County 6-2 at 3-1 in Region Play in Region 4-4A. Traveling to DeKalb County at 6-2 and 2-2 in Region Play. This game will be on UCR2 with Josh Bowles and Chase Hoke, presented by the Real Estate Collective in Sparta. Both of these teams coming off of a bye. Before the bye, White County got a big win without Trip Pinion against CAK, 28-27. DeKalb County barely beat Cumberland County, 28-21. They needed a fourth down stop late in their own territory to get the job done. For White County, they only need one win in the last 2 weeks to secure the 2 seed and have home playoff until they would eventually face maybe the Upperman Bees a little later on down the road. So they don't need to win this one. They would need to win next week. Obviously, you would love to get it done. All that to be said, I wouldn't expect Trip Pinion to play in this game.
Yeah, listen, I don't know.
We have no idea.
I have no clue. There's lots of factors in this game.
Yeah.
This game,
DeKalb very much needs a win.
Handedly for me, hinges on if Trip Pinion plays.
Yeah.
Like, if Trip doesn't play, completely different ball game. If Trip does play. To me, there is very little incentive for Trip Pinion to play outside of hunting an individual award. And with the ceiling this Sparta team has, I don't think that's the smartest thing in the world. I don't think you try and play a kid that could have any sort of hindrance trying to hunt a Mr. Football when you've got an opportunity to go on a deep playoff run, which they have the opportunity to do. This is a program that has won one playoff game. You cannot risk that. They're going to the playoffs. Without Trip Pinion, I think we all feel really comfortable that they're going to win next week. Okay? That clinches the 2 seed. The way I look at it, again, this is purely my own, I'm not a doctor, I haven't talked to anybody, none. This is just
we have no insider information.
Missed 2 weeks ago, missed last week on a bye week, you missed this week, you missed next week. It's a month plus an extra 6 days. You're talking about 5 weeks essentially where you could have Trip Pinion out there in the first round of the playoffs. And you're the 2 seed no matter what. Now, if you want to dress him next week and if something goes haywire, he throw him out there. Other than that, I don't see the benefit. Now, that being said, I want to be clear. Sparta can still win this football game tomorrow night without Trip Pinion.
Yeah.
It's just a very different one, and DeKalb has to have it. DeKalb has to pull one out of the hat. They got to win this week, and they got to beat Upperman next week. But you can't even worry about Upperman if you're DeKalb, because if you lose this week, kumbaya, it's over. It's over. You missed the playoffs. It's the 4 teams that are locked in, and it is what it is. So,
and we say that because they already lost to Macon and Stone, who play each other, so they have the head-to-head.
That does work in the favor of DeKalb a little bit, that they clearly have more to play for in this game.
Yes.
That being said, Sparta's playing really good football, and DeKalb was not. DeKalb has to make adjustments in that off week. You know Steve Trapp, a great head coach. They went back to the drawing board. They're going to have some aces up their sleeve, but they got to have them tomorrow night against the Sparta team with or without Trip Pinion.
White County's defense has been really, really good. Now, granted, CAK is not a very good football team, but they did what they needed to do, and they won that football game without Trip Pinion. They got the win against Cumberland County and shut them out a few weeks ago, and then obviously have the bye this week as well. So that White County defense has started, especially after that Upperman game, starting in that Macon County game, has really kind of turned a corner maybe in these last 3 games or so.
Sparta found their identity.
Yeah.
And they can credit the Hurricane. Because when that hurricane blew through and they had no choice but to pile it, I mean, hey, I was hammering this table. Run the football. Play power football. You're White County.
Seen the hats.
Put 22 people in the box and get in there. And that's what White County has done. They've loaded up the box on offense. They've loaded up the box on defense. They're playing physical, hard-nosed. They got some big old boys up front. Lex Winfrey, A.J. Hunt, they're coming for
Kelso.
Isaiah Kelso, Gage Stevenson. These dudes are coming to hit and hit hard, and they've gotten back into doing that. And no matter what, if Tripp plays, if Tripp doesn't, that's what Sparta's going to have to lean on tomorrow night. And for DeKalb County, they got to get back a little bit to the greatest show on turf. They got to let Jordan Parker go out there and be Jordan Parker, an electric playmaker. Ryan Lyons, maybe some jet sweep stuff, clearly throwing it up to him downfield. You got John Hendricks out there, Cecil Ketchum carrying the rock at the tailback position. They got to get back to an explosive offense, one that we haven't really seen. Got punched in the gut a little bit. Macon County got them, right? That second half against Macon was rough. Kind of had that effect over the next week against Cumberland County. Great opportunity for a reset for DeKalb County. Let's not forget, they were 5-0, playing great ball. People looking at them different now. All it takes is one night to get back to being the DeKalb County that we saw the first 5 weeks of the regular season.
Who are you going with?
Yeah, listen. I say coin flip game sometimes. This one really, nothing's going to surprise me. I will lean towards the healthier and certainly the more desperate football team. If Tripp plays, this pick probably changes. I doubt he plays. I'll take DeKalb County to win the game, 28-21.
I'm also going to DeKalb County. I went a little closer, 29-28. Don't know if it's actually a one-point game, but we'll go to DeKalb County in that one as well. All right, Upperman beat White House last week, 42-6, and we kind of talked about it on the End Zone show, and we were kind of laughing about it a little bit as well, saying this was one of the closer games that Upperman has played this year, and it was still a run rule, essentially. They got into the running clock in the fourth quarter. It started out going up 21-0. It seemed like it was going to go the same script that they had been doing, other than the Macon County game, going up, getting to the running clock at halftime, and taking the starters out in the second half. But White House able to convert a couple of fourth downs and actually scored on the Upperman defense, the first team to do so since that Macon County team in Week 3. And it was 21-6. The officials thought it was fourth down. It was third down, and gave the football to White House. Didn't matter. Goes 21-6 at halftime, and then the Bees kind of took care of business in the second half. But it was a very physical football game, and something that I think Coach Kane probably wanted, especially out of the bye. Played really well. This was the game that they struggled in last year out of the bye. Went up 21-0, dealt with some physicality, and an offense that kind of hit them back a little bit right before halftime, but then they were able to make a couple of plays in the second half and pull away late.
This game's been the bugaboo, right, for Upperman. We talked about it last week, out of the bye week, and it still kind of was, and they won 42-6.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the best we've seen Upperman play. Listen, White House got athletes, man.
Yeah.
We talked about it. They got dudes. And it was 42-6.
Yeah.
I mean, another game where they've won it by a lot more lopsided than they won it last year. They have so many weapons. They are the best team in the state. I've told you where I think they're going this year. I mean, we will talk about it. We'll get into this next matchup. They are the number one team, and they're going to stay that way. They don't have to have their A game every night and still can just blow the doors off of teams. And that's what you saw on Friday night, a physical White House team that had a pretty good game plan, and it didn't matter. 42-6, the clock's running at the end of the game.
It was not funny, but it kind of stunk for White House and their quarterback. He threw it a little bit more against Station Camp a couple of weeks ago before the bye. The first 2 times he threw it, it was picked off. Elijah Fitz picked it off to start off the ball game, and then Theo Brown picked it off after that. It was Carmine
You mentioned
Phillips.
Elijah Fitz, and this talks about the depth of this Upperman team, right?
It's insane.
You put Elijah Fitz on any other roster, and it's all we talk about, right? And when you talk about Upperman, he's like the 6th guy you name, and he's a stud. I mean, that's the thing with this team. Theo Brown,
Dude's quick.
Blazing fast, over 6 feet tall. Colton Johnson, physical, tomahawking linebacker, right? Yeah, the list goes on and on. Oh, and you got Brock Lesnar at quarterback. That helps in the form of Bronston Chaffin. And Ethan Paulk is just a sledgehammer. And Branson Turnbow runs away from everybody. And Carmine Phillips is your Swiss Army knife, can literally do everything.
First special teams touchdown of the year?
They can do everything. They haven't had any special teams issues, so to speak, so far this season.
That's one thing that Coach Shanks and I talked about a little bit, and they've got obviously a new kicker this year in Roberts who doesn't kick it very far, but he does what he's supposed to do. He kicks it to about the 30, 35-yard line every time, and other than the Macon County game, nobody has gotten past him, and they really don't get great starting field position because the Bees are able to get down there quick enough.
100%, and then you got to talk about their offensive line because entering the season, that was the question, right? It was, man, they return a lot of skill positions, but they lost a lot up front, both sides of the ball. And week one, they were good, and now they're a dominant line.
Yes.
And that's a testament to Adam Kane. That's his group. He's an elite head coach, obviously, but he's a great offensive and defensive line coach. You see that every week. They change the point of attack on every play. On offense, they move forward. On defense, they push into the backfield. They've got blitzers in the form of Ethan Paulk flying in there. Their defensive backs, elite. Branson Turnbow roaming on the outside. You've got Phillips and Brown and Fitz. You can't just, like last year, a Pearl Cone with a couple of Division I wide receivers. Okay, cool. Anderson County has a legit wide receiver on the outside. Cool. You're going to get bracketed up by Theo Brown and Branson Turnbow. Thanks for coming. It's
Theo Brown matchup, which he's been playing a little bit more linebacker here lately too.
But behind him is a guy that runs a 4.5.
Yeah.
They're elite. They are elite everywhere. Argue with the wall about it.
Well, let's talk about the game that they have. It's our high school football game of the week. Upperman undefeated, 4-0 in region play, traveling to Stone Memorial, who is 5-3 and 3-1 in region play. This game will be presented by Gentry's Power Equipment. Noah McKay, Jeremy Tollison, and Hallie Ledbetter. With a win, the Bees secure the region title and the number 1 seed. They would host throughout the playoffs. Stone Memorial, with a win, could be in line for the 2 seed, so they're playing for quite a bit in this game.
Stone Memorial, with a win, can win this region, because they only have 1 loss. A Stone win and a Stone win next week, and Stone Memorial wins the region. They're the last team standing that can still win this region.
You are correct about that. The last time these two met in Crossville, the Panthers won it on a 2-point conversion, 15-14. The only loss that Coach Kane has suffered in this region with the Bees.
In this region and the 3A region. In 7 seasons, it's the only region loss that they've had. Going to be a lot of fun. Myself, Jeremy Hallie, will be there tomorrow night. And this game is very interesting. There's a reason we're going. There's several reasons we're going. Obviously, Stone Memorial can still win the region. They're the last team standing here, right? And a Stone loss changes the complexion for them, because then they're battling next week with Macon County, likely to be the 3 or the 4.
That's what's wild about the Stone team. They can go from the 1 all the way to the 4. They're not going to miss the playoffs, so that's good. But they could go anywhere from 1 to 4.
Exactly. They can go anywhere with it. And doesn't it feel just a little bit like this may be the last stop of the revenge tour that's been dormant all year? Right? That was all that Upperman talked about last year. Revenge on 3, revenge tour, revenge tour, revenge tour. Well, they exacted their revenge on Stone last year in the regular season matchup. But this is their first time going back to Crossville since that game that they lost. A lot of different pieces. Bronson Chaffin didn't play in that game. Ethan Paulk was a very different player. 2
Stone
years younger.
A completely different
Carmine
team.
Phillips wasn't out there. Stone was a completely different team. But do you think it matters to Adam Kane? Like they're going to come in there. And maybe with the exception of Macon, though, on the other hand, Stone historically has played Upperman tighter than anybody else has. Usually it's just a revolving door. Thank you for coming, you lost by 30. Thank you for coming, you lost by 30. Even dating back to 2021 when they played at Tennessee Tech, game got moved and they played it at Tech, tight ball game. Something about the way Derek Samber plays on offense and defense has created some issues for Upperman outside of the first round or in the first game last year. In the second game, pretty good playoff game. Upperman started with their hair on fire. Stone stayed in the fight, did some good things. So, to me, this is kind of the final test for Upperman. If they go out and do what they've done the first 8 games of the season, it's probably kumbaya, thanks for coming, we'll see you in Chattanooga. Like, I know Anderson County is a great football team, but if they come out here and beat Stone by 30 points tomorrow night, I'm probably booking a hotel.
Jessica made a good point.
Yeah.
If White County wins out, if Stone were to beat Upperman, there would be a three-way tie. Because White County's only got the one loss still.
That is correct. We've got different issues to worry about with White County tomorrow, if Trip Penny is playing or not. But great point.
Yes.
Then we get into some fun.
There's a whole lot of hypotheticals.
Yes. Correct. Thank you. Check me on that. That's why we have comments. But on the other hand, a Stone team with an ability to kind of change their ceiling, change their forecast. If they're able to compete in this game, I think they get back on the radar. We talked about how good we think York is. It's not a bad loss. They have an opportunity to kind of shock the world a little bit, and I'm excited to see if they can do it tomorrow night.
Yeah, it should be a really fun football game. Last season, the Bees won it 48-6, and that was the one that, it started off just as fast as you could start for the Upperman Bees, and that was a game coming into it that Stone Memorial had a lot of confidence coming into that game, and the Bees wiped it out immediately within the first about 5 minutes of that football game. In the playoffs, much closer. 28-14 football game, much more of what you expected in that regular season contest. And I also put on here, this is really the first real test for Upperman since that White County game. Now, obviously, they passed that game with flying colors, won it 49-7. But since then, haven't played a team to the caliber of a Macon County, a White County, until this game right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, for me, it's a test for Upperman. It's a great opportunity for Stone Memorial. Those are two kind of separate things, but they're both true within this game. Excuse me. And Stone has the ability to press Upperman in ways other teams don't, right? Quarterback rollout game. In ways, quite frankly, that Upperman may see if they do go on this deep playoff run that everyone expects them to go on. They're not going to face a passing offense like this. DeKalb is a different sort of passing offense, but certainly they can throw it, so don't get me wrong. But kind of a rollout, on-schedule, in-tempo passing game. You're not going to see tempo the way that Stone Memorial plays it. So a different look for Upperman, see if they can handle that and continue to be as explosive as they are. The problem for Stone for me in this game, obviously trying to move it on Upperman's defense is an issue. This Upperman offense is so explosive. They have to find a way to force some turnovers. Do what Macon County did, right? First play of the game for Upperman, it's a turnover. Now, I'll lay the challenge down. A big part of that was the environment was unbelievable in Upperman and Baxter that night. Stone Memorial, you got to show up. You got to show up for them tomorrow night because you got to impact the game. The crowds have impacted the game in some of these other places, and I know, and I am not. This is nobody's fault. Now the stadium is way too big. It's a 6A stadium. I get it, but the fans who were there, right? I kind of laid this challenge down last time before the York game, and people showed up. Credit to them. It's 3rd and 8. Get up and make some noise. I know I'm the crazy fan guy. You got to get up, bring a milk jug or something, and make some noise. This team is good enough in Crossville for them to deserve that. So that's the challenge this week to the Stone fans. Show up, obviously, but make some noise for your team. You got to find a way to help them impact this game. You got the number 1 team in the state coming to your barn. That doesn't happen a lot. You get what I'm saying? I'm trying to juice you up a little bit. Go out there. No one's going to pick you to win the game. Go out there and yell at me, yell at the team, and get rowdy on tomorrow night. It's a fun game. It's going to be great weather. Come on. I need Crossville to show up.
So you're not picking Stone?
I told you I will fire anybody who picks against Upperman the rest of the year. Upperman wins.
What's the score?
35-14.
That's exactly what I put. I also put 35-14. So
great minds.
Once again, the picks will be coming out tomorrow morning, so keep it tuned in to UpperCumberlandReporter.com for that. Goose a little bit under the weather. We're hoping he's feeling good.
Come on, brother Goose.
Coming up tomorrow, of course.
You think he's faking?
No, I don't. I
sure?
do not think he is faking it.
He's faking to get out of the nothing that's happening tonight?
Yeah, right. It's a lot of the stuff is done, and it's just football. We got basketball coming up here.
I'll be at a media day in 12 hours.
3-4 weeks.
Or 14 hours.
It is right around the corner.
Of
course, we'll be deep into the playoffs with, we hope, a lot of football
Those
teams.
weeks stink. We're getting ready for a playoff game, and we got basketball.
Starting basketball of games that mean absolutely nothing. Granted, I love doing basketball games. don't take that the wrong way. It's just very different. But that's all we got tonight. Appreciate everyone tuning in. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that share button. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like the stream and subscribe to the channel as well. Of course, we want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to all of our all-inclusive sponsors. We're here at Fire and Vine on the rooftop. It's absolutely packed. They've got Thursday Night Football on.
I don't know what is in the air right now, but somebody has something that smells delicious.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic.
It's just Fire and Vine.
Literally, it smells fantastic over here. Fire and Vine is where it's at. It's jumping, but there's no wait. So come out, enjoy a great meal, and come up to the rooftop, watch the NFL game.
And it's not cold out tonight.
Justin Jefferson just got a catch to the 5-yard line.
It's not cold enough out that they don't even have the heaters on tonight. So yeah, it's wonderful. The Real Estate Collective, another one of our all-inclusive sponsors. Tee Up in Baxter, Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate, Club Wyndham, Watson Chevy. You're watching it right here on the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network. The Quality Family, Domino's, Nelson Trophy and Screen Printing, Eminence Eagle Auction and Realty. The Crouch Team with Highlands Elite Real Estate, Hall Sports and Outdoors, and the Hall Family Pharmacy, and Swallows Insurance. We appreciate every single one of those businesses for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. Games tomorrow, we'll go through them once more. Our high school football game of the week on UCR, Upperman and Stone Memorial. UCR 2 will be White County and DeKalb County. UCR 3, Cookeville and Green Hill. How about those top 3 games that we have coming up? UCR 4, Livingston Academy and Cumberland County. And UCR 5 is York and Wartburg. Tune into the games. Go out to the games. It's going to be beautiful weather again tomorrow. It's going to get chillier as the game goes on, but it's going to be in the 80s during the day again. We couldn't have asked for much better weather. We might need some rain maybe soon, but
we need to go golfing. We're going to run out of time. It's going to be 40 degrees.
That is also true. That is also true.
But you haven't golfed since you're hole in one. I mean, goodness, you just retired?
Yeah, it's
going
out on a high note.
Walk-off shot.
Go out to the games, and then, of course, tune into the End Zone show that we will have after the game. We'll let you know where it's going to be from eventually.
It'll be remote.
Yeah. He's coming from Stone. I'll be coming from Green Hill.
And, hey, I want to say, and we'll say it tomorrow night, thank you and I know everyone agrees. You see us all the time, but we will have 15, 20 people out tomorrow doing 5 games across the Upper Cumberland. Appreciate the team making it possible. The sponsors, you need to be sponsoring. I cannot believe the amount of people that go, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to call you. Send us a message, man. I mean, come on. You need to be on board here at UCR. But we appreciate the sponsors making it possible, and the team is going to do a good job tomorrow night.
It's going to do it for us tonight. Tune in to the game.